In October 2020, Apple did something that felt like a glitch in the Matrix. They released the iPhone 12, but when people opened the box, something vital was missing. No wired headphones, and crucially, no charging brick, just a lonely, coiled up cable and a piece of glass. Apple stood on stage and draped themselves in a green flag. They told us this was a massive environmental victory. By shrinking the box, they could fit 70% more phones on a single shipping pallet. Less carbon, less e waste, a healthier planet. It sounded noble. It sounded like corporate responsibility. But it was actually one of the most brilliant calculated cash grabs in corporate history. And the wildest part? The rest of the tech industry, they couldn't wait to copy them. The immediate reaction from consumers was pure fury. You're charging $1,000 for a phone, but I have to buy the plug separately? Apple's rivals saw blood in the water. Samsung instantly launched a massive social media campaign mocking Apple. They posted photos of their charging bricks with smug captions like, included with your Galaxy. Xiaomi did the same. Google dropped subtle digs. The internet laughed, declaring that Android would never treat its customers like wallets. Cut to less than 3 months later, January 2021. Samsung unveils the Galaxy S21. And guess what isn't in the box? The charging brick. Without a trace of irony, Samsung quietly deleted all their mocking social media posts, stepped up to their own podium, and gave the exact same speech. We are doing this for the environment. Within 18 months, Google, Xiaomi, and almost every major manufacturer followed the exact same blueprint. Why? Because Apple had just proven something terrifyingly lucrative. Consumers will complain, but they will pay. Let's look at the actual math because the environmental narrative completely falls apart under a microscope. Yes, shrinking the box allowed Apple to fit more phones on a shipping pallet, which technically reduced their transportation emissions. But what happened to the consumer? If you bought an iPhone 12 and didn't have the specific new USB C charging brick, you had to order one. That meant a separate product was manufactured. It was put in its own separate cardboard and plastic box. It was loaded onto a separate delivery truck, driven to your house, and left on your porch. The e waste didn't disappear, it was just unbundled. Instead of one consolidated shipment, the carbon footprint was effectively doubled for millions of users who needed a plug. Apple didn't save the environment. They outsourced the environmental cost to the consumer while keeping 100% of the financial savings. So, if it wasn't actually saving the planet, what was it doing? It was fixing a massive corporate headache. In 2020, tech companies were panicking. The transition to 5G network technology was incredibly expensive. The 5G modems inside the iPhone 12 cost significantly more than the older 4G ones. If Apple kept the box the same, their profit margins per phone were going to plummet. They either had to raise the price of the phone, which would hurt sales, or find a way to cut costs. By removing the charger and headphones, analysts estimate Apple saved roughly $35 per phone in raw materials and shipping logistics. Multiply that by hundreds of millions of iPhones sold, and Apple quietly pocketed an estimated $6.5 billion in pure savings. But it gets better. By removing the brick, they created a brand new, high margin accessory market. Early estimates showed Apple pulling in an extra $225 million just from direct sales of their standalone $19 USB C plugs and basic earbuds. Now, Apple didn't capture this new accessory market entirely. In fact, they triggered an absolute gold rush for third party brands like Anker, Belkin, and Ugreen, who flooded online storefronts with cheaper multi port alternatives. But here is the truly cunning part. Apple didn't need to capture 100% of the charger market. By unbundling the brick, they successfully solved the 5G margin crisis on their core product. If a consumer chose to buy a cheaper third party plug instead of Apple's official one, it didn't hurt Apple's bottom line. Apple had already successfully padded their phone margins, offloaded the logistics of packaging and shipping heavy plastic squares, and made the lack of a plug someone else's problem to solve. Just like the headphone jack before it, the disappearing charger brick was a masterclass in conditioning the public. Before 2020, buying a piece of electronics meant buying a complete functioning ecosystem in a single box. Today, we live in a world of fragmented hardware. You buy a premium smartwatch, a high end tablet, or a flagship phone, and you are expected to piece it together yourself like a subscription model for plastic. Apple proved that if you are dominant enough, you can remove features, call it progress, and charge your customers extra for the components they use to get for free. And the rest of the industry won't fight it. They'll just wait a few months for the anger to fade, delete their tweets, and cash the exact same check.